The morning shift at Station Epsilon 7 began like any other. Instructor Taman stood at his usual position near the main entrance gates, watching as hundreds of new cadets filed through the security checkpoints. The massive scanning array hummed with power, reading each student's biological signature and cross-referencing it against the galactic database. Green lights flickered above each gate as cadets passed through. Vraxian, Krell, Dendari, Thulian, species from every corner of known space. Taman had done this job for 12 years. He knew the routine by heart. Check the scanner. Verify the admission codes. Direct the cadets to their assigned dormitories. In all that time, he had never seen the scanner display anything other than a green light or an occasional yellow warning for medical conditions. That morning, everything changed. The cadet appeared ordinary enough at first glance. She stood about average height for a humanoid species, with dark hair pulled back in a practical style. She wore the standard civilian clothes that new cadets arrived in before receiving their uniforms. She carried a single bag over her shoulder and held her datapad ready with her admission papers displayed on the screen. She stepped into the scanner with the same calm confidence as the hundreds of students before her. Taman barely glanced up from his console. The scanning beams washed over her body, reading genetic markers, checking for weapons or contraband, verifying her identity against her admission records. Then the scanner screamed. Red lights exploded across every display panel. Warning klaxons blared so loudly that cadets in line jumped back in alarm. The holographic display above the scanner flashed with text that Taman had never seen in his entire career. Unknown species. Genetic markers do not match any recorded sentient life form. Security alert. Containment protocols recommended. Taman's hand froze over his console. His assistant, Instructor Hieri, rushed over from the adjacent gate, her face pale with shock. "That's impossible," she whispered, staring at the readout. "The database contains genetic information for over 6,000 sentient species. Every known intelligent life form in 3 galaxies. How can it not recognize her?" The young woman stood calmly in the scanner, apparently unbothered by the chaos erupting around her. She looked at Taman with curious eyes, her head tilted slightly, as if wondering what the problem might be. "Is something wrong?" she asked in perfect galactic standard, her accent crisp and clear. Taman found his voice, though it came out rougher than he intended. "Please step to the side, cadet. Don't move from that position." The woman complied without hesitation, moving to a designated waiting area near the gate. She set down her bag and stood with her hands visible, showing no signs of aggression or fear. Other cadets in line murmured nervously, craning their necks to see what caused the commotion. Hieri pulled up the cadet's admission file on her datapad, her fingers moving rapidly across the screen. "Her name is listed as Jisoo, age 22 standard years. Test scores are exceptional. She ranked in the top 5% on the entrance examinations. Physical assessment shows above-average capabilities. Everything appears legitimate." "Check the authorization code," Taman said, his mind racing. "Someone had to approve her admission. Someone had to enter her into the system." Hieri's fingers danced across the screen, diving deeper into the file. Her expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. "The authorization code traces back to Central Command. It's genuine, Taman. This isn't a forgery or a system error. Someone at the highest level of Galactic Military Command approved her application and granted her access to the Academy." "Then who authorized her entry?" Taman whispered, though the question was rhetorical. He keyed his communicator. "Security Chief Minho, we have a situation at Gate 7. I need you here immediately." Within minutes, Security Chief Minho arrived with a full tactical team. The broad-shouldered Krell officer assessed the situation with practiced efficiency, his hand resting on the pulse weapon at his hip. He studied Jisoo through narrowed eyes, then turned to examine the scanner readout. "Unknown species," Minho read aloud. In 300 years of galactic record-keeping, we've never had an unknown species reach our gates. Every sentient species was catalogued during the Great Survey. This should be impossible. Impossible or not, she's here, Taemin replied, and her credentials appear legitimate. Minho made a decision. Full academy lockdown, soft protocols. No one leaves or enters until we figure this out. Hyeri, contact Central Command. I want to know who authorized this admission and why we weren't notified about a new species. Taemin, move all remaining cadets to the secondary processing area. He turned to his security team. Escort the cadet to Observation Room 3. Treat her with respect, but she doesn't leave that room until we have answers. Two security officers approached Jisoo. She looked at them calmly, showing no resistance as they gestured for her to follow. Am I in trouble? She asked, her voice carrying genuine curiosity rather than concern. Just a routine security check, Minho said, his tone neutral. We need to verify some information. Please cooperate, and this will be resolved quickly. Jisoo nodded and walked with the security team. Taemin noticed she moved with easy grace, her stride confident but not aggressive. She didn't look back, didn't protest, didn't demand to speak with anyone. She simply accepted the situation and adapted to it. Observation Room 3 was designed for exactly this type of scenario. The small chamber featured a table, 2 chairs, and a one-way viewing window. The room was monitored by 6 different camera angles and equipped with atmospheric controls that could adjust to almost any species' biological requirements. Jisoo entered the room and sat down in one of the chairs. The security officers exited and sealed the door. Through the one-way glass, Taemin watched as she pulled out her datapad and began reading, apparently content to wait for however long necessary. She doesn't act like a threat, Hyeri observed, standing beside Taemin at the observation window. She's not demanding a lawyer, not trying to contact anyone, not showing any signs of distress. Either she's incredibly naive, Taemin said slowly, or she knows something we don't. Dr. Nari arrived within the hour. The Academy's chief xenobiology specialist was a thin, elderly Dendari with silvery skin and 4 precise hands that moved constantly, even when she stood still. She reviewed the scanner data with intense concentration, her primary eyes scanning the readouts while her secondary eyes focused on Jisoo through the observation window. Fascinating, Nari murmured. Absolutely fascinating. The genetic structure shows elements similar to Vraxian musculature, Thulian neural pathways, and Dendari cellular regeneration, but it matches none of them precisely. It's as if this species evolved parallel solutions to the same evolutionary pressures, but through completely different mechanisms. Is she dangerous? Minho asked bluntly. All species are potentially dangerous, Chief. The question is whether she intends harm. Nari studied Jisoo thoughtfully. Her body language suggests calm acceptance. Her physiological readings show no stress indicators. Either she's exceptionally well-trained to control her responses, or she genuinely sees no reason to be concerned about her situation. Taemin made a decision. I'm going to talk to her. Are you sure that's wise? Hyeri asked. We don't know anything about her species. She could be capable of anything. Then the sooner we start learning, the better. Taemin squared his shoulders. We can't keep her locked in that room forever. Someone needs to start asking questions. He entered Observation Room 3. Jisoo looked up from her datapad and smiled, a warm expression that seemed entirely genuine. Hello, she said pleasantly. I'm Jisoo. I think there's been some confusion about my application. Taemin sat down across from her, studying her face carefully. That's one way to describe it. Our scanners can't identify your species. That shouldn't be possible. I understand this must be concerning, Jisoo replied. I'm human, from Earth. It's a planet in the Orion Spur region of the galaxy. Taman accessed his datapad and searched for the location she described. The star charts showed a region of space marked as surveyed but largely ignored. According to the database, the area had been scanned 2 centuries ago and deemed unworthy of further investigation. According to our records, Taman said carefully, that region contains no advanced civilizations. Jisu's smile widened slightly. Your records might be out of date. Dr. Nari worked through the night in her laboratory, running test after test on the blood sample Jisu had voluntarily provided. The xenobiology specialist had studied thousands of species over her long career, but nothing had prepared her for what she found in those few drops of crimson liquid. The genetic code was wrong, not defective or mutated, but fundamentally different from anything in the known universe. Every species in the galactic database shared certain basic structural elements in their DNA, evidence of a common origin billions of years ago. Jisu's genetic material contained none of those markers. Instead, Nari discovered something far more disturbing. The human DNA was impossibly complex. It contained redundant systems layered upon redundant systems, like a machine built with 5 backup plans for every critical function. There were self-repair mechanisms that activated automatically when cells were damaged. There were adaptive sequences that seemed designed to respond to environmental changes. There were protein structures that didn't match any known biological function. Nari expanded her analysis to the cellular level. Human cells regenerated faster than any species she had studied. The healing factor was extraordinary. She ran a simulation showing that a human could recover from injuries that would cripple most galactic species within days rather than weeks. The bone density measurements made her gasp. Human skeletal structure was 3 times denser than the galactic average. Their bones could withstand pressures that would shatter the frames of supposedly stronger species. The muscle fiber composition was equally impressive, suggesting humans could generate tremendous force relative to their body size. She compiled her findings into a report and called an emergency meeting of the senior faculty. Instructors Taman and Hyeri arrived first, followed by Security Chief Minho and the Academy's Commandant, a stern Thulian named Commander Ixar. Nari displayed her data on the conference room's holographic projector. Gentlemen, ladies, what we're dealing with is unprecedented. This human species isn't just unknown to our database. They're biologically superior to most known species in several critical areas. Superior? Minho repeated, his voice sharp. Explain. Nari pulled up a comparison chart. Their cellular regeneration rate is 4 times faster than ours. Their bone density would allow them to survive in gravity wells that would crush most of us. Their muscle structure suggests they can exert force far beyond what their size would indicate. And their neural plasticity, their brain's ability to adapt and learn, exceeds every species we've tested except the Dendari. And we're an ancient race that's been optimizing our genetics for millennia. Commander Ixar leaned forward, his crystalline eyes gleaming. Are you suggesting this species engineered themselves? That they're artificial? No, Commander. The genetic markers suggest natural evolution. But the conditions required to produce these adaptations must have been extraordinarily harsh. This species evolved on a world that was actively trying to kill them. Taman thought about his conversation with Jisu. She had mentioned Earth, a planet in a largely unexplored region. What do we know about their homeworld? Hyeri accessed the old survey data. The Orion Spur was surveyed 203 years ago by the exploration vessel Wandering Star. They cataloged the system containing Earth but made no contact. The planet was classified as pre-industrial, no signs of spacefaring capability. 200 years is a long time, Nari said thoughtfully. Most species take thousands of years to develop from industrial age to faster-than-light travel. If the humans achieved it in 2 centuries, they developed technology at an unprecedented rate. Or they had help, Minho suggested darkly. Perhaps they stole the technology. Taemin shook his head. I don't think so. When I spoke with her, Jisoo mentioned something about finding one of our drone ships. She said they reverse engineered it. The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. If the humans had developed faster-than-light technology through reverse engineering, they had accomplished in decades what took most species millennia of development. I want to interview her again, Taemin said. We need more information about Earth and how they achieved spaceflight. Commander Ixar nodded. Proceed, Instructor. But take Security Chief Minho with you. Until we understand what we're dealing with, we maintain cautious protocols. Jisoo had spent 18 hours in the observation room. She had eaten the food provided without complaint, though she noted it tasted bland compared to what she was used to. She had slept for 6 hours on the small cot, waking refreshed and alert. Now she sat reading a textbook on galactic history she had downloaded to her datapad, fascinated by the vast tapestry of civilizations that existed beyond Earth. When Taemin and Minho entered the room, she looked up with the same calm expression she had maintained throughout her detention. Instructors, she greeted them politely. Have you resolved the confusion about my admission? Taemin sat down across from her, while Minho remained standing near the door. We're still investigating. I need you to tell me more about Earth. How did your species develop faster than light travel? Jisoo set down her datapad. It started about 60 years ago. A spacecraft crashed in the northern part of our largest continent. The government that controlled that territory kept it secret, studied it intensively. The craft was heavily damaged, but enough systems remained intact that our scientists could understand the basic principles. Which government? Minho asked. It doesn't matter anymore. Earth unified about 20 years ago, after we realized we weren't alone in the universe. The old nations and their conflicts seemed petty once we understood we were part of a larger galactic community. Taemin pulled up the star charts on his datapad. Show me exactly where Earth is located. Jisoo leaned over and pointed to a yellow star in a spiral arm of the galaxy. There, third planet from the sun, one large moon. We call our star Sol. Taemin zoomed in on the region. The system was indeed cataloged in the survey data, but marked with a notation that made his blood run cold. Quarantine recommended. Primitive species shows excessive aggression. Monitor for self-destruction. Your planet was quarantined, Taemin said slowly. The galactic community deliberately avoided contact with Earth. Jisoo's expression didn't change. I suspected as much. We found old monitoring beacons in our outer system. We decoded the warnings, but we didn't see why that should stop us from reaching out. The warnings existed for a reason, Minho said harshly. Your species was deemed too dangerous for contact. Dangerous to whom? Jisoo asked, her voice still calm but with an edge of steel. We've never attacked anyone. We've been exploring our local space peacefully for 15 years. We've made no hostile moves. We simply wanted to learn, to be part of something larger than ourselves. Taemin studied her carefully. Tell me about Earth. What kind of planet is it? Jisoo's expression softened slightly. It's beautiful, diverse. We have vast oceans, towering mountains, deep forests, harsh deserts, frozen poles. The climate varies wildly across different regions. We have thousands of different ecosystems, millions of species of plants and animals. And the conditions? Nari's voice came through a speaker. She was monitoring the interview from the observation room. Dr. Nari here. I'm curious about the environmental pressures on your world. Earth is a challenging planet, Jisoo admitted. The gravity is strong. The weather can be violent. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. Temperature ranges from well below freezing to extreme heat. We have predators, diseases, natural disasters. Life on Earth requires constant adaptation. And humans are the dominant species? Nari asked. We are now. It wasn't always that way. For most of our evolutionary history, we were prey as much as predators. We survived by being clever, by working together, by never giving up no matter how difficult things became. Taman saw it then, the pieces falling into place. That's why your biology is so robust. You evolved on a death world. Your species developed all those redundant systems, that rapid healing, that dense bone structure, because anything less would have gone extinct. Jisoo nodded. Earth made us strong. It made us adaptable. It taught us to survive. Or it made you dangerous, Minho said. A species bred for survival at any cost. Now equipped with faster-than-light technology and military ambitions. Military ambitions? Jisoo looked genuinely confused. I applied to the Galactic Academy because I want to serve, to protect, to help maintain peace. That's what your academy stands for, isn't it? Taman wanted to believe her. Everything about her demeanor suggested honesty and genuine intention. But he couldn't ignore the implications of what she represented. If Earth had produced one individual with these capabilities, how many more were there? What kind of military force could humanity field if they chose to? How did you get approved for admission? Taman asked. The authorization code traces back to Central Command, but no one remembers approving a human candidate. Jisoo pulled out her datapad and showed him her application history. I applied through the standard channels 8 months ago. I took the entrance examinations remotely, using the testing protocols published on the Academy's public network. I scored well enough to qualify. 3 months later, I received my acceptance letter with full authorization codes. Yeri's voice came through the speaker. I'm checking the application database now. She's right, her application is here, processed normally through the standard system. But there's something odd. The acceptance was issued by an automated approval system, not a human reviewer. Automated? Commander Ixar's voice cut in. The Academy hasn't used automated approvals in 50 years. Every application is personally reviewed. Nevertheless, that's what the records show, Hieri replied. Somehow, Jisoo's application bypassed normal review procedures and was approved automatically based solely on her test scores. Taman looked at Jisoo with new respect. You hacked our system. No, Jisoo said firmly. I followed your published procedures exactly. If your system has a vulnerability that allowed my application through without proper review, that's not my fault. I didn't exploit anything. I just applied. She was technically correct, Taman realized. The humans had found a flaw in the Academy's application process and used it, but they hadn't broken any actual rules. Why did you really come here? He asked quietly. Jisoo met his eyes, and for the first time, he saw something beyond calm confidence. He saw determination, hope, and a hint of loneliness. Because Earth has been isolated for too long, she said. Because my people deserve a place among the stars. Because I believe we have something to contribute to the galactic community if you'll give us a chance. I came here to prove that humans belong here, no matter what your old surveys say. The Academy Council convened in the Grand Chamber at the heart of Station Epsilon 7. 50 representatives from the major galactic species sat in a circular arrangement, their varied forms reflecting the diversity of known sentient life. Crystalline Thulians sat beside massive Krell warriors. Graceful Dendari occupied seats next to aquatic Kelmarans in specialized environmental suits. All had come to decide the fate of one human cadet. Commander Ixar stood at the center of the chamber, his crystalline form refracting the light into rainbow patterns across the walls. We face an unprecedented situation. A species we quarantined has achieved spaceflight and placed an operative in our most prestigious military academy. We must decide how to proceed. Council member Raxus, a scarred Krell veteran, slammed his massive fist on his desk. The decision is simple. Expel the human immediately and reinforce the quarantine. Her species was deemed dangerous 2 centuries ago. Nothing has changed. Everything has changed, Dr. Nari countered from her position in the scientific observer section. The humans have faster-than-light travel. They know we exist. We cannot simply ignore them and hope they go away. Then we contain them, Raxus growled. Deploy monitoring stations. Establish a blockade if necessary. But we do not allow them into our institutions. Instructor Hieri stood, her voice clear and measured. With respect, Council Member, that approach has already failed. The human bypassed our application security. She scored exceptionally on our entrance examinations. She's been detained for 2 days and has shown nothing but cooperation and respect. Perhaps we're reacting out of fear rather than reason. Fear is appropriate when facing an unknown threat, another council member said. We know nothing about human intentions. For all we know, this Jisoo is a scout for an invasion force. Security Chief Minho stepped forward. I've completed my security assessment. If Jisoo intended harm, she's had numerous opportunities to act. The observation room isn't escape-proof for someone with her physical capabilities, yet she's remained compliant. Her behavior suggests she truly believes she was legitimately admitted. Because she exploited a flaw in our systems, Raxus retorted. Or because she's exceptionally clever, Taman said, speaking for the first time. Intelligence isn't a crime. Adaptability isn't a threat. The qualities that allowed her to gain admission are the same qualities we claim to value in our cadets. The debate raged for hours. Some council members argued for immediate deportation. Others advocated for study and observation. A few suggested offering humans limited contact through diplomatic channels rather than military training. Finally, Commander Ixar raised his hand for silence. We're approaching this wrong. We're debating policy and politics when we should be gathering information. I propose a test. Let's see what this human is actually capable of. Dr. Nari's biological data tells us one story. Let's see if reality matches the theory. What kind of test? Asked Council Member Thessa, a Dendari elder. A combat assessment, Minho suggested. Standard Academy protocol. We test all cadets' physical capabilities during their first week. Let's test her now. Murmurs rippled through the council. The combat assessments were designed to evaluate a cadet's basic fighting skills, physical endurance, and ability to think under pressure. They were standardized across all species, with adjustments made for biological differences. If she performs poorly, it suggests the biological data is misleading, Commander Aksar said. If she performs as expected, we'll have concrete evidence of human capabilities. Either way, we'll know more than we do now. The council voted. The measure passed by a narrow margin. Jisoo was brought to the main training arena, a massive facility designed to accommodate combat training for dozens of different species. The floor could adjust its gravity. The atmosphere could be modified. Obstacles could rise from the floor or descend from the ceiling. It was the most advanced training facility in known space. Instructor Doyen waited in the center of the arena. The Krell warrior stood nearly 3 meters tall, his body covered in thick scales that could deflect most small arms fire. He had trained thousands of cadets over his 20-year career at the academy. He was strong, fast, and experienced. Taman briefed Jisoo in the preparation room. This is a standard combat assessment. You'll face Instructor Doyen in hand-to-hand combat. The match continues until one fighter yields or is incapacitated. Serious injury is rare but possible. You can decline this test. Jisoo shook her head. No. I understand you need to know what humans can do. I'll show you. Doyen is a Krell. His species is known for strength and ferocity in battle. He won't hold back just because you're smaller. I wouldn't want him to, Jisoo said simply. She wore the standard training uniform now, having been provided with academy gear. She stretched her muscles, rolling her shoulders and neck. I'll try not to hurt him too badly. The statement would have sounded arrogant, coming from almost anyone else. From Jisoo, it sounded like a simple statement of fact. The arena filled with observers. The entire Academy Council watched from elevated viewing boxes. Faculty members crowded the observation decks. Even other cadets had been allowed to witness the match, though they were kept behind reinforced barriers. Jisoo walked onto the arena floor. The space was enormous, giving both fighters plenty of room to maneuver. Doyun stood at the opposite end, his massive arms crossed over his chest. He studied her with the practiced eye of a veteran warrior, looking for weaknesses, assessing her stance and movement. "Ready positions," the combat referee announced, a neutral AI voice that echoed through the arena. Jisoo took a relaxed stance, her feet shoulder-width apart, her hands loose at her sides. She didn't adopt any recognizable fighting posture from known martial traditions. Doyun narrowed his eyes, uncertain how to read her. "Begin!" Doyun charged immediately, using his superior mass and strength to try to end the fight quickly. He crossed the arena in seconds, moving with surprising speed for his size. His fist came up in a devastating uppercut designed to lift Jisoo off her feet. She wasn't there. Jisoo had moved sideways with fluid grace, letting Doyun's momentum carry him past her. He spun, faster than expected, and threw a backhand that would have shattered concrete. Jisoo ducked under it, still not counterattacking, just evading. The observers leaned forward. This was unusual. Most cadets in their first combat test either attacked aggressively or defended desperately. Jisoo did neither. She simply moved, flowing around Doyun's attacks like water around stone. Doyun growled in frustration. He launched a combination attack, high punch, low sweep, grabbing lunge, all executed with the precision of thousands of hours of training. Jisoo evaded the punch, jumped the sweep, and when Doyun lunged, she caught his arm. The arena fell silent. Jisoo held Doyun's massive forearm in both her hands. The Krell warrior outweighed her by at least 200 kilograms. His arm was thicker than her torso, yet she held it, absorbed his momentum, and redirected it using what looked like leverage and timing rather than pure strength. Doyun stumbled, caught off balance. He recovered quickly and yanked his arm back, but Jisoo had already released it and danced away. "She's studying him," Dr. Nari said from her observation position. "She's learning his patterns, his tells, his rhythm. She's not fighting yet. She's gathering data." For 5 minutes, the pattern continued. Doyun attacked with increasing ferocity, using every technique in his considerable arsenal. Jisoo evaded, blocked, redirected, but never fully engaged. She moved with an economy of motion that suggested deep training. Every movement had purpose. Nothing was wasted. The observers began to understand. Jisoo wasn't trying to win quickly. She was demonstrating control, showing that she could avoid damage indefinitely if she chose. Then Doyun made a mistake. He overextended on a lunging tackle, putting too much forward momentum into the attack. It was a tiny error, the kind that would mean nothing against most opponents. Jisoo moved like lightning. One moment she was backing away from Doyun's charge. The next, she was inside his guard, so close their bodies nearly touched. Her hand pressed against his throat, not squeezing, just touching, showing she could have crushed his windpipe. Her other hand was positioned near 3 different vital points on his torso, fingers extended like blades. "Yield?" she asked quietly, her voice calm despite the intense combat. The arena was absolutely silent. Every observer understood what they were seeing. Jisoo had complete control of the fight. She could have ended it at any moment. Doyun, for all his size and strength and experience, was helpless in her grip. Doyun's face went through several expressions: shock, fury, humiliation, before settling on grudging respect. "I yield," he said. Jisoo immediately stepped back, her hands dropping to her sides. She bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. "Thank you for the match, Instructor. You're very skilled." Doyen stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he returned the bow. "What style was that? I've never seen anything like it." "It's a combination," Jisoo explained. "On Earth, we developed hundreds of different martial arts over thousands of years. Different cultures, different philosophies, different approaches to combat. I've trained in several styles and learned to blend them based on my opponent." "Hundreds of martial arts?" Doyen repeated. "Most species have one, maybe two traditional fighting systems." "Earth is diverse," Jisoo said. "And we've spent a lot of our history fighting each other. We got very good at it." In the observation boxes, the council members sat in stunned silence. They had just witnessed a human, a species they knew almost nothing about, defeat one of their best combat instructors with apparent ease. "This changes everything," Council Member Thessa said quietly. Raxus, the Krell who had argued most forcefully for expulsion, looked shaken. "If all humans have capabilities like that..." "We can't afford to make them enemies," Commander Ixar finished the thought. "And we can't afford to ignore them. The question is no longer whether to accept them. The question is how to integrate them without destabilizing the existing galactic order." Taemin felt a strange mixture of concern and admiration. He had seen thousands of combat matches in his years at the Academy. He had never seen anyone control a fight the way Jisoo just had. She hadn't just won. She had demonstrated mastery so complete that it bordered on theatrical. In the arena, Jisoo helped Doyon to his feet. The massive Krell accepted her hand without hesitation, a gesture of respect between warriors. "You held back," Doyon said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Jisoo admitted. "I didn't want to injure you. That wasn't the point of this demonstration." "Demonstration," Doyon repeated, understanding dawning. "This wasn't a test for you. It was a test for us. You were showing the Council what humans can do." Jisoo smiled slightly. "I was showing them we deserve to be here." The combat demonstration had shaken the Academy to its foundations. In the days that followed, Jisoo remained in supervised quarters while the Council debated endlessly about what to do with her. She was allowed limited access to the Academy's library systems and spent most of her time reading everything she could find about galactic history, politics, and culture. Instructor Hieri couldn't sleep. Something about the official story didn't sit right with her. The old survey data, the quarantine recommendation, the way Earth had been deliberately ignored for 2 centuries, it all felt wrong. Late one night, unable to quiet her thoughts, she accessed the Academy's restricted archives. The standard historical databases told the familiar story. The Great Survey had cataloged thousands of worlds across 3 galaxies over a period of 200 years. Any planet with sentient life was evaluated for contact potential. Most were welcomed into the galactic community. A handful were placed under observation, their development monitored until they achieved certain technological or social milestones. Only 3 planets in all that time had been quarantined completely. Hieri dug deeper, using her instructor credentials to access files marked with the highest classification levels. She found references to Earth scattered throughout old reports, always with the same ominous tone. Then she discovered a file that made her hands shake as she read it. Survey Report XR447, dated 412 years ago. The exploration vessel Wandering Star had spent 6 months in Earth's solar system, observing the planet from orbit. Their findings were detailed and disturbing. The report described Earth as a Class 12 death world. The classification scale only went to 15, reserved for planets so hostile that life shouldn't be possible at all. Earth rated a 12 because of its extreme environmental conditions. The survey team had documented temperature variations from minus 50 degrees to plus 50 degrees Celsius across different regions. They recorded hurricanes with wind speeds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour. They observed volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunamis, and other natural disasters that would devastate most civilized worlds. But that wasn't what had led to the quarantine recommendation. The survey team had studied human civilization at the time. They found a species engaged in constant warfare with itself. Humans fought over territory, resources, ideology, religion, even abstract concepts like honor and pride. The report estimated that in recorded human history, there had been fewer than 3 decades of total peace across the entire planet. The recommendation was stark. Species shows excessive aggression and remarkable adaptability, capable of thriving in conditions that would eliminate most sentient life. High probability of becoming a destabilizing force if they achieve spacefaring capability. Recommend quarantine until species either achieves stable, peaceful civilization or self-destructs through warfare. Probability of self-destruction, 78%. Hieri found another report from 200 years ago, a follow-up survey. Human technology had advanced significantly. They had split the atom, developed early computers, and sent primitive craft beyond their atmosphere. But they had also developed nuclear weapons and come frighteningly close to destroying themselves in a global war. The second survey reinforced the quarantine recommendation and added a chilling note. This species' primary evolutionary advantage appears to be persistence. They do not know when to quit. They survive conditions that would break other species through sheer stubborn refusal to accept failure. This makes them unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Hieri sat back, her mind reeling. The galactic community hadn't just ignored Earth. They had actively hidden it, hoping humanity would destroy itself before becoming a problem. She took her findings to Taman immediately. They met in his private office in the middle of the night, the corridors outside empty and silent. They were afraid of us, Taman said after reading the reports, not because humans were evil or malicious, but because they were survivors. The galaxy looked at Earth and saw a species that couldn't be stopped by anything, not ice ages, not plagues, not natural disasters, not even themselves. And now they're here, Hieri added. Not destroyed, not peaceful by galactic standards, but unified enough to reach the stars. Everything the old surveys feared has come to pass. We need to show this to the Council. Will it help or hurt Jisu's case? Hieri asked. These reports paint humans as dangerous, aggressive, and unstoppable. Taman considered. Or they paint humans as remarkably resilient and adaptable. It depends on how you look at it. They decided to confront Jisu with the information first. She had a right to know what the galaxy thought of her species, and her reaction might tell them something important about human character. Jisu read the reports on Taman's datapad, her expression neutral. When she finished, she looked up at the 2 instructors with those calm, dark eyes. "So you've been afraid of us this whole time," she said quietly. "The galactic community was concerned," Taman said carefully. "Earth is unlike any planet we've encountered. The conditions that shaped your species made us strong," Jisu interrupted. "Yes, Earth is harsh. Yes, humans have fought each other throughout our history. But that history also taught us cooperation, compassion, and the value of peace. We learned the hard way that survival requires working together." The reports mention constant warfare, Hieri pointed out. Hundreds of years ago, yes, we were divided into hundreds of nations, each competing for resources and power. But we grew up. We learned. When we discovered evidence of the galactic community, when we realized we weren't alone, it changed everything. Our petty conflicts seemed meaningless in the face of a universe full of other civilizations. Jisu stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars beyond the station. "You want to know why I really came here? It's because Earth has been isolated for too long. My people have spent millennia fighting only themselves, never realizing there was something bigger to strive for. I came here to show the galaxy that humans have grown beyond our violent past. We're ready to contribute, to learn, to be part of something greater." How can we be sure? Taman asked. How do we know humanity won't become the aggressive, destabilizing force the old surveys predicted? Jisoo turned back to face them. You can't be sure. No one can predict the future. But you can judge us by our actions. I've been here for days. I could have fought when your security team detained me. I could have tried to escape. I could have responded to fear and suspicion with anger. Instead, I've cooperated, answered questions, and tried to prove that humans can be trusted. She paused, and for the first time since arriving at the academy, her calm facade cracked slightly. Taman saw vulnerability beneath it, and something that looked like loneliness. Do you know what it's like to grow up knowing you're alone in the universe? Jisoo asked softly. To look at the stars and wonder if anyone else is out there. We found your drone ship 60 years ago, and it changed everything. It meant we weren't alone. It meant somewhere out there, other beings were asking the same questions, seeking the same answers. She looked directly at Taman. I didn't come here as a warrior or a conqueror. I came here as someone who wants to learn, to understand, to find a place in the larger galactic community. If you reject me, if you send me back to Earth and reinforce the quarantine, you're not protecting the galaxy. You're punishing an entire species for the crime of surviving on a difficult planet. The words hung in the air. Hyeri felt tears forming in her eyes. She had spent days thinking of Jisoo as a problem to be solved, a threat to be contained. She hadn't considered the human perspective, the loneliness of an entire species kept in isolation, deliberately hidden from the larger universe. We need to present this to the council, Taman said finally. All of it. The old surveys, the quarantine recommendation, and your testimony. Let them see the full picture and make an informed decision. Will it help? Jisoo asked. I don't know, Taman admitted. Some will see the reports as proof that humans are dangerous. Others might see them as proof that humans are survivors who deserve a chance. The council is divided. Then I'll speak to them myself, Jisoo said, her strength returning. I'll tell them about Earth, about humanity, about why we deserve to be here. If they reject us after hearing the truth, at least it will be an informed decision. The next day, Jisoo stood before the full Academy Council. The circular chamber was packed with representatives from every major species. The atmosphere was tense, charged with uncertainty and fear. Commander Ixar called the session to order. Cadet Jisoo, you stand before this council as the first known human to reach our institutions. We have reviewed extensive data about your species and your planet. We have seen demonstrations of your capabilities. Now we would hear from you directly. What can you tell us about humanity that the old surveys missed? Jisoo stood in the center of the chamber, alone and small compared to many of the massive beings surrounding her. But she stood straight, her voice clear and strong. The surveys saw Earth as a death world and humans as aggressive survivors. Both assessments are technically correct but incomplete. Yes, Earth is harsh. Our planet has violent weather, dangerous predators, and deadly diseases. But it also has incredible beauty. We have oceans that stretch beyond the horizon, mountains that touch the sky, forests full of life, and skies painted with colors you can't imagine. She turned slowly, making eye contact with different council members as she spoke. Yes, humans have fought wars. We've hurt each other and made terrible mistakes, but we've also built civilizations, created art, developed science, and learned to love. Every human carries the genetic legacy of survivors, ancestors who refused to give up when things seemed impossible. That stubbornness, that refusal to quit, is our greatest strength. It's also potentially your greatest danger, Council Member Raxa said. A species that never surrenders, never compromises, could destabilize the careful balance of galactic peace. Or we could strengthen it, Jisoo countered. Earth taught us to survive. The galaxy can teach us to thrive. We don't want to conquer or dominate. We want to learn, contribute, and find our place among the stars. Give us that chance. Judge us by our actions, not by fears based on outdated surveys. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Council members argued passionately on both sides. Some saw humanity as a threat that needed to be contained. Others saw potential allies who could bring new perspectives and capabilities to the galactic community. Finally, in the late hours of the station's artificial night, the council voted. The measure passed by the narrowest of margins. Jisoo could remain at the academy, provisionally. But Earth would be formally contacted through diplomatic channels, and humanity would need to prove themselves worthy of full integration into galactic society. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was a beginning. Taemin found Jisoo afterward, standing alone in an observation deck, looking out at the stars. "You knew, didn't you?" he asked. "When you first applied to the academy, you knew Earth was quarantined." Jisoo nodded. "We decoded the warning beacons. We found the old survey data in the crashed drone ship's computers. We knew the galaxy had decided we were too dangerous to contact. Then why come at all?" "Because waiting for permission means waiting forever," Jisoo said simply. "Sometimes you have to show people what you're capable of before they'll give you a chance. That's a very human thing to do. Refuse to accept no for an answer." She smiled slightly. "Earth taught us to survive impossible odds. Now the galaxy will teach us what else we're capable of. I think it's going to be an interesting journey." 3 weeks passed since the council's decision. Jisoo had been granted provisional admission to the academy, but the tension surrounding her presence hadn't disappeared. It had simply gone underground, simmering beneath the surface of daily academy life. The news of an unknown species spread through the cadet population, despite official attempts to contain it. Rumors multiplied faster than facts. Some cadets whispered that the human was a genetic experiment gone wrong. Others claimed she was a spy from a hostile civilization. A few believed she was the first of an invasion force. Jisoo tried to maintain her normal routine. She attended orientation sessions, studied the academy curriculum, and prepared for the start of formal classes. But everywhere she went, she felt eyes following her. Conversations stopped when she entered a room. Other cadets gave her a wide berth in the corridors. Most avoided her out of uncertainty rather than hostility, but some, particularly the Vraxian cadets, made their displeasure clear. The Vraxians were a proud warrior species who had dominated their region of space for thousands of years. They viewed military service as the highest calling and took great pride in their combat traditions. The revelation that a previously unknown species had defeated one of the Academy's best combat instructors had wounded their collective pride. The confrontation came on a bright afternoon in the Academy's main training yard. Jisoo was running through basic physical exercises, maintaining her fitness while waiting for formal training to begin. She noticed a group of Vraxian cadets watching her from across the yard, their body language aggressive and territorial. The largest of them, a cadet named Carvax, approached. He stood nearly 2.5 meters tall, his scales gleaming purple-black in the artificial sunlight. Behind him, 4 other Vraxian cadets formed a loose semicircle, blocking Jisoo's path to the exit. "Human," Carvax said, his voice deep and contemptuous. "You don't belong here." Jisoo straightened from her stretches, keeping her expression neutral. The Academy Council decided otherwise. "I was admitted through legitimate channels." "Legitimate?" Carvax laughed harshly. "You exploited a system flaw. You sneaked in like a parasite. Your kind was never meant to reach the stars." Other cadets in the training yard stopped their exercises to watch. A crowd began to form, drawn by the prospect of conflict. Jisoo noticed several species represented: Krell, Dendari, Thulian, all watching with varying expressions of curiosity and concern. "And yet, here I am," Jisoo said calmly. "If you have a complaint about my admission, take it to the council. I'm just a cadet trying to train." "You're an insult," Carvax spat. A primitive from a death world, thinking you can stand among true warriors. I challenge you. Right here, right now. Prove you deserve to be here." The crowd murmured. Challenges between cadets weren't uncommon at the academy, but they usually happened later in training, after basic instruction was complete. Challenging someone during orientation was aggressive and unusual. Jisoo sighed. She had hoped to avoid this kind of confrontation, but she recognized that backing down would only make things worse. If she refused the challenge, the rumors about human cowardice would spread. If she fought and won, she might earn some measure of respect. "I don't want to fight you," she said. "Because you're afraid," Carvax taunted. "All that talk about human survival and adaptation, but when faced with a real warrior, you run." Jisoo felt something shift inside her. She had been patient, diplomatic, understanding. She had answered questions, endured suspicion, and accepted restrictions on her freedom. But there was a limit to how much she could tolerate, and Carvax had just crossed it. "Fine," she said, her voice quiet but carrying an edge of steel. "If you want a demonstration of what humans can do, I'll give you one." The crowd backed up, forming a rough circle around the two combatants. Someone must have alerted the instructors because Taemin arrived running, with Security Chief Minho close behind. "Stop this immediately," Taemin shouted. "Unauthorized combat between cadets is—" "She accepted my challenge," Carvax interrupted. "By Academy tradition, this is legitimate." Minho checked his datapad and cursed under his breath. Carvax was technically correct. The ancient codes that governed Academy conduct allowed for formal challenges between cadets, though they were rarely invoked anymore. "I can't stop this," Minho said to Taemin. "But I can referee it to ensure it doesn't go too far." Taemin wanted to protest, but he knew Minho was right. The challenge had been issued and accepted publicly. Stopping it now would humiliate Jisoo and violate Academy traditions. "Combat ends at first submission or incapacitation," Minho announced in his official capacity. "Lethal force is prohibited. Serious injury will result in immediate expulsion. Do both participants understand?" "Yes," Carvax said eagerly. "Understood," Jisoo confirmed. The two combatants faced each other across the training yard. Carvax adopted a traditional Vraxian fighting stance, his weight balanced and his claws extended. Vraxian combat style emphasized overwhelming force. They used their superior size and strength to dominate opponents quickly. Jisoo stood in a relaxed posture that looked almost casual. Her hands hung loose at her sides, her stance open and seemingly vulnerable. But Taemin, who had studied her carefully during her previous combat demonstration, recognized the deception. She was coiled like a spring, ready to move in any direction instantly. "Begin," Minho said. Carvax charged immediately, using the same aggressive opening that Doyen had used in Jisoo's previous match. He clearly expected to end the fight quickly, using his size advantage to overwhelm the smaller human. Jisoo didn't evade this time. She moved forward to meet the charge, which surprised everyone watching. At the last possible moment, she dropped low, sliding under Carvax's outstretched arms. Her hand shot up as she passed beneath him, striking a nerve cluster on the inside of his thigh. It was a precise, surgical strike that hit exactly the right spot to temporarily disrupt muscle control. Carvax's leg buckled. His momentum carried him forward, now off balance and vulnerable. Jisoo was already behind him, rising smoothly from her slide. She placed one hand on his back, not pushing, just touching. "First point," she said calmly. The crowd gasped. In traditional Academy combat scoring, touching an opponent's back without resistance counted as a symbolic kill. Jisoo could have driven her hand forward, could have struck his spine or kidneys, but instead she had simply demonstrated control. Carvax roared in humiliation and fury. He spun faster than his size suggested possible, his tail whipping around in a devastating arc meant to sweep Jisoo's legs. She jumped it easily, landed, and stepped back to give him space to recover. "You're holding back," Carvax snarled. "Fight me seriously." "I am fighting seriously," Jisoo replied. "I'm just not trying to hurt you. There's a difference." This enraged Carvax further. He launched a combination attack using every technique from Vraxian military training. High strikes, low strikes, grappling attempts, tail sweeps, all executed with the power and precision of someone who had trained for years. Jisoo flowed around the attacks like water. She blocked when necessary, evaded when possible, and occasionally struck back with those precise, controlled blows that targeted nerve clusters and pressure points. Each of her strikes was measured, designed to disrupt rather than damage. The watching cadets began to understand what they were seeing. This wasn't a fight. It was a lesson. Jisoo was teaching Carvax, and by extension all of them, about the difference between force and control. "On Earth," Jisoo said as she evaded another wild swing, "we have a saying. The greatest victory is the battle not fought. But if you must fight, fight with purpose, not anger." She moved inside Carvax's guard again, her movements almost casual now. She could have ended the fight a dozen times, but instead she kept demonstrating, showing different techniques, different approaches to the same problem. "Your strength is impressive," she continued, blocking a powerful strike and redirecting it harmlessly. "But strength without control is just violence. Let me show you what I mean." In one fluid motion, Jisoo caught Carvax's incoming punch, used his momentum against him, and executed a perfect throw that sent the massive Vraxian crashing to the ground. Before he could recover, she had his arm locked in a joint hold that would dislocate his shoulder if he struggled. "Yield," she asked, her voice gentle despite the painful position she held him in. Carvax struggled for a moment, then went still. His pride warred with his pain and basic tactical sense. Finally, through gritted teeth, he spoke. "I yield." Jisoo immediately released him and stepped back. She offered her hand to help him up. Carvax stared at it for a long moment, his face showing a mixture of emotions, shame, anger, but also grudging respect. He took her hand. She pulled him to his feet with surprising strength for her size. "You said we weren't meant to reach the stars," Jisoo said quietly, speaking so only Carvax could hear. "But Earth taught us something important. We're all meant to reach the stars if we're brave enough to try. Your species did it. Mine did it. We're here for the same reason, to learn, to grow, to become something more than we were." She raised her voice so the entire crowd could hear. "I didn't come here to prove humans are better than anyone else. I came here to prove we deserve a place alongside you. If that means proving myself in combat, fine. But I'd rather prove myself as a teammate, a classmate, and maybe someday as a friend." The training yard was silent. Then, slowly, one cadet began to clap. Then another. Within moments, the entire assembled crowd was applauding. Not everyone was convinced, but they recognized courage when they saw it. They recognized skill and control and the wisdom to win without causing unnecessary harm. Instructor Doyun, who had been watching from the edge of the crowd, stepped forward. "That was well done, Cadet Jisoo. You showed not just combat skill, but judgment and restraint. Those are qualities we value highly at this academy." Even Carvax seemed to have calmed down. He touched his fist to his chest in a Vraxian gesture of respect. "You fight with honor, human. I was wrong to challenge you out of pride. You've earned your place here." Jisoo returned the gesture. "Thank you, and you're a skilled warrior. If you'd like, I could show you some of those nerve strike techniques. Earth's martial arts have developed over thousands of years. We have a lot to share." That offer seemed to surprise Carvax even more than the combat had. "You would teach me? After I insulted you and your species?" "Why not? We're both here to learn. Teaching is just another form of learning." Jisoo smiled. "Besides, Earth taught us another saying. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, but I'd rather skip the enemy part and go straight to being friends." The crowd dispersed slowly, cadets talking excitedly about what they had witnessed. The story would spread through the academy, Taman knew. But this time, the story would be about human skill and wisdom, not just physical capability. He approached Jisoo as she was gathering her training gear. "That was risky. You could have seriously injured him." "But I didn't," Jisoo pointed out, "because the goal wasn't to win a fight. It was to change minds. Beating Carvax wouldn't have proved anything except that I'm good at fighting. But beating him without hurting him, then offering to teach him, that shows we can be more than just survivors from a death world." "You're thinking strategically," Taman observed. "Not just about this moment, but about humanity's long-term integration into galactic society." "Someone has to," Jisoo said. "I'm the first human most of these people have met. Everything I do, everything I say, shapes their perception of my entire species. That's a heavy responsibility. But it's also an opportunity. I can show them that humans are more than the old surveys suggested. We're not just aggressive survivors, we're also creative, compassionate, and willing to learn." She looked out at the dispersing crowd, many of whom now looked at her with curiosity rather than fear. Change happens one person at a time, one interaction at a time. Today, maybe I changed a few minds about what humans are capable of. Tomorrow, I'll try to change a few more. Eventually, Earth won't be the quarantined death world anymore. We'll just be another species contributing to the galactic community. Taman felt a surge of hope. Maybe Jisoo was right. Maybe humanity's arrival wasn't the threat the old surveys had predicted. Maybe it was exactly what the galaxy needed, a fresh perspective from beings who had survived the impossible and still managed to retain their capacity for growth and compassion. "Welcome to the Academy, Cadet Jisoo," he said formally. "I think you're going to do well here." Jisoo smiled, and for the first time since arriving at Station Epsilon 7, it was a smile of genuine belonging rather than diplomatic courtesy. "Thank you, Instructor. I think so too.